our quote for the day. You express the truth of your character with the choice of your action, by Steve Maraboli, a behavioral scientist. Boy, that's a solid one. Over the weekend, or perhaps just before, there was a deadly school bus accident. And the media played it like, gee, what a terrible accident. But there's a layer beneath this and beneath many of these things that ties back in some ways, arguably even to Donald Trump's selection of Betsy DeVos as the Secretary of Education, although, you know, there's no direct linkage here. But Mike Elk is on the line with us. He's a senior labor reporter with the Payday Report. PaydayReport.com is the website. You can tweet him at Mike Elk, M-I-K-E-E-L-K, or at Payday Report. Mike, welcome back to the program.
Yeah, it's great to be back on, Tom.
Great to have you with us. So what relationship do you see between a tragic school bus crash that killed a number of children and anti-worker, anti-labor, anti-union efforts by Republicans in the states?
Well, the issue at hand here is the driver was a 24-year-old man by the name of John Anthony Walker. He was making $13.30 an hour, and he had a daughter who was 3 years old. In order to make ends meet, he was forced to work as a Amazon warehouse worker at night, meaning that he would go in and he'd work from 6 p.m. till 6 a.m., sleep a few hours, perhaps, and then, you know, go and drive the school bus for a few hours. Now, you know, it's been shown that fatigue, that lack of sleep causes accidents as well as causing, you know, a lot of mental health disorders. So what wound up happening in this incident is that, you know, he was speeding around a corner. Now, you know, the local media has really focused on racializing this story and making it out, you know, that this guy is a black guy and, you know, in very coded ways. And, you know, it sounded like the guy was having a tough time in life. But the bigger issue here is that school bus driving used to be a job that was very well paid. You know, it used to be a union job that was making $19, $20 an hour.
Yeah, you got the lives of our kids in your hands.
Yeah, and what's wind up happening is that there's been a big privatization movement. And so what happens is that you have these low-grade school buses with people that aren't getting paid enough, that are working part-time, that are underqualified. I mean, the testing for this is not very high. And what winds up happening is you have accidents like this because there's no accountability. And this isn't the first time that they've been warned about this kind of accident happening.
For example?
Well, for example, over the last 2 years, a study by the NTSB showed that there was 346 crashes for this school bus company, Durham School Services, which is the second largest privatized school bus.
This one particular privatized company, over 300 school bus crashes?
Yeah, in 2 years.
Now, is there any parallel to that kind of frequency in the unionized school bus area?
No, not really. And according to the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, 93% of motor carriers in the same safety event group have better on-road performance. So
wow.
This is a big issue.
So if you were shopping for a doctor for surgery, for example, and, you know, because we're talking about life in your hands, right? Only in this case, it's the lives of our children. And you looked around and there was a bunch of, you know, reasonable doctors who had pretty good records. And then there was this guy who was in the worst 2% of doctors, had the worst number, you know, the highest number of people who died under his care. Basically, this is Tennessee, right? Or Minnesota? Or is it both?
This is in Tennessee.
This is in Tennessee, okay. But the same thing has happened in Stillwater, Minnesota, I understand as well. So what you do is you choose that 2% of the most terrible because they're the cheapest?
You choose them because they're the cheapest, basically.
And you also choose them because presumably the people who own the company who are making money off the fact that they're the cheapest, you know, the contracts pay fairly well, actually. It's going to the CEOs and the stockholders. And then that money is being recycled back to the politicians in the form of what we used to call bribes. But since the Buckley case in 1976, we now have to call free speech.
Exactly. And what wind up happening in this instance is not only were there a lot of safety violations, there were a lot of labor rights violations. Over a decade, it was found that there were 57 formal complaints filed by the National Labor Relations Board against this company. And many people had warned that, when you have workers that are afraid of speaking out, that, safety problems are going to go unnoticed. And actually, in 2015, two British members of parliament came to Tennessee to investigate, since Durham School Services is owned by a National Express, a British company. They came to Tennessee to investigate, and they found that, the workplace intimidation was preventing people from speaking out. And a year before this accident, they came to Tennessee and warned that an accident like this could occur. So this wasn't that anybody, a lot of people said this kind of accident could occur. It was quite simply that this company had a profit motive to ignore the problems.
Whoa, so you're saying that the private for-profit company that hired this bus driver, who was also working another job because he was only paid $13 an hour by the bus company and he had to raise his daughter, that private for-profit company, all the profits are going back to the United Kingdom?
Yep.
My God, we're privatizing things so that the owners can make money rather than we can have good services. And then the owners don't even live in the United States?
Yep.
That's astonishing. That's absolutely astonishing.
I think it's only going to get worse under the Trump administration. I mean, you bring up Betty DeVos.
Yeah, Betsy.
Who's a big, Betsy DeVos, who's a big school privatization champion.
Yeah.
And what's going to happen is that with Betsy DeVos, you're going to see even more privatization of essential services that schools do. And not every state is like this. In the state of Georgia, it's a publicly done thing, right across the line.
Right.
And in other municipalities, Beaufort, South Carolina, had this same company. And after 20 years of using various companies, they got fed up. And in 2013, they brought school busing back in as a public service.
Wow.
Public services like this that, our children depend on, should not be held hostage by the profit motive.
Yeah, there are some things that should be part of the commons, and education and transportation, to and from education, at least public transportation to and from education, should certainly not be done on a for-profit basis, in my opinion, and apparently yours. Mike Elk, senior labor reporter with Payday Report, paydayreport.com. Mike, thanks a lot for the call, or for the information.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks so much for being our guest. We'll be right back.